What's going on? Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of So How'd You Get Here? I'm Angelo.
I'm Tony.
And if you're just tuning in today for the first time, we are a podcast that deals with backstories. We like to dive into how people got where they are. Did they get there? And if they did, what did it take to do that? Today we have a guest. He has gone from chiropractor to stunt coordinator, which kind of just says enough on its own. Yeah. He's the CEO of T-Minus Productions. He's worked on multiple TV shows, commercials. I'm sure he's lit himself on fire at some point.
Music videos.
I'm sure he's gone through plate glass window, windows, plural. Anyway, I would like to welcome to the show today, Mr. TJ White. How you doing, sir?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
you coming by, buddy.
coming by. I'm going to hand it over to you. Stunt coordinator from chiropractor. I mean, that's everybody's story.
That's a crazy thing. So I grew up around the business my whole life. My dad's a stunt coordinator, secondary director. He's won like 4 Emmys for like Days of Our Lives and Young and the Restless.
Oh, wow.
And I think he's coordinated Young and the Restless for like 20 some years.
So when those bar fights break out,
or they're scratching someone or throwing someone down the stairs. That's like the way they kill people all the time. It's a great show to work on too. They're a great family there. But I grew up in the business. My dad also stunt coordinated Revenge of the Nerds and Stripes and stuff like that. So
oh wow.
And he doubled David Hasselhoff on Knight Rider. So I grew up on the sets of those movies and sort of saw what they're doing. So
wow.
Yeah.
So what do you remember as a memory, your first movie set?
I remember. I'll tell you how I got my name because that's sort of a memory. I think I was like 10 or 11 years old. My dad left Knight Rider to go do another movie, an Ivan Wright movie, a 3D movie. I can't remember, maybe a Space Hunters or something. And so he got replaced as his David double. So we were at Bank of America right next to Universal Studios.
Yeah.
And he goes, hey, let's go. That's when you could walk on Universal Studios backlot. So he goes, hey, let's see if there's anyone on the backlot. I'm like, okay. I'm like 10 or 11 years old. I walk into the lot, and then he's like, oh, Knight Rider's filming. And I'm like, oh, awesome. I get to see Kit. You know, that's all I cared about. Maybe a house off. So he walks up. We talked to David Hasselhoff, and he's like, hey, by the way, you know, John Candy's on the other stage doing Brewster's Millions. And
I love that movie.
It's a great movie, right?
Oh, yeah. So good.
And so my dad's like, oh, I'm going to go stop by and see him. So my dad walks up to his trailer, knocks on.
Your dad had a personal relationship with him?
Well, my dad did Stripes with John.
Got it.
And he's got a whole story working with John because we became friends on that show because, you know, he casted John Gibb, Ogre from Revenge of the Nerds, was my dad's friend on he was like a neighbor or something, and then he got him as he was a referee in the mud pit fight with John Candy on Stripes. So he became friends with him, but you know some of the girls were a little rough with John on the Stripes set, so he got a little irritated.
Rough.
They were naked. They were like he told them not to do things. He had injuries in his knees and stuff like that, so he got a little testy sometimes. So my dad was trying to protect him as an actor, and so they became good friends. And and back in the Universal's lot where he comes out and I'm looking up to him. And for me, I was like a tiny kid, but I had I'm all about my hair. You can't tell because I have a hat on, but
which is why you're wearing a hat.
so I would put gel in my hair and make sure it looked good and stuff like that.
LA looks.
Totally.
You couldn't use a little. You had to use a whole
it's like
remember
handful. the tub
yes.
of gel and it's like different colors.
Your hair looked like a helmet, and then someone would inevitably always come up and poke one little part of it, and then you had to start all over again.
So hold on one second.
Oh, yeah. Do we have pictures?
No. The phone's going off.
Oh, dang
Sorry
it.
about that.
So got excited. I thought you were actually going to pull up some pictures. I was excited.
I bet I have them.
Send them to me. We'll put them in the video.
So John comes out of the trailer, and he's sitting in there with, I look in the door, and it's I forget her name, a real famous black model.
Iman?
He was Iman. Iman's sitting there, and then the other guy, the DJ from WKRP in Cincinnati. So I'm like, oh my gosh, more actors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're just bullshitting in there. And John comes out, and he's like, oh, Terry James, because my dad's name is Terry James, and I go by TJ White. So now. So then he's hit me, like John looks down at me and he's like rubbing my head, messing my hair up. And I'm like, what the hell is this guy messing my hair up? Like, I'm like, okay, stop it. And it was cool to meet him, but then he's like, when he was rubbing my head, he's calling me Big T, TJ, like Little Terry, like that. And I'm like going, who's that? I go, I'm Terry, like I'm Terry Jr. or whatever. Right. And so fast forward to like I was like 16, 17 years old, and I met with my first agent, Lynn Baldwin, who's my dad's commercial agent. And I talked to him, and we were talking about my name, like, let's do a creative name. I'm like, well, I'm Terry White, like what it is.
Right.
Like, my real name's Terrence, actually. And I said, what do you want to name me? Like, and I said, you know what? It's funny is I met John Candy when I was like 10 or 11 years old, and he called me TJ. And she goes, no one ever called you that before? She goes, and I go, no. She goes, well, your name's TJ White now. And I go, why do you say that? She goes, I discovered John Candy in Canada. And I go, okay, so my name's John Candy named me TJ.
There you go.
So it's literally stuck with me since I've been, 15, 16 years old.
And now we have you here, TJ White.
Yes.
I think you should have gone with John Candy Jr.
I know. I wish. Oh,
it's
man.
fine. TJ
What a
White
loss.
works. It's like a strong second option. I like that.
So how does knowing all these people, growing up in the business, you graduate high school,
yes,
and then you go to chiropractor school? You don't want to go to film school?
Well, what happened is, so I saw the ups and downs of the business. I mean, I saw my dad's working on these great projects, then he doesn't work for 3 months, and I was like, I need a backup plan. So actually, I grew up in Ohio. So I moved out here when I was 18 and moved in with my dad, and I was going to like junior college of Canyons, and I was like, maybe I want to do something in business or hotel management or something like that. And then a family friend was working for a chiropractor, Dr. Bruce Oppenheim, who was married to Sybil Shepherd at the time. And he's a famous chiropractor in Tuluk Lake. And I go down there and work for him, and I thought it was pretty easy. I'm like, I could be a chiropractor. This is like easy. And I saw he's really successful. He was like the chiropractor of the stars. And I go, I think I'm just going to do that. So at that time, my cousin has actually become a chiropractor too. And so I went to Life University in Atlanta, Georgia, and Marietta, Georgia, actually. And I didn't realize how hard it was. Like, I had no clue it was basically med school.
Yeah.
And so I graduated.
I mean, one wrong thing, you can probably paralyze somebody.
Oh, I'm telling you. Like, I mean, the stuff we're learning in school, you're like, you're not going to see a glioblastoma and this, that. And like, I'm seeing that in my practice, like a primary brain tumor. Like, it's crazy the stuff that you learn in your life. They're like telling you school, you're like, yeah, you'll never see it. But in my practice in Encino, I saw it.
All the time.
It's crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So you did that from when? What's the time frame?
That's a 6-year degree, 4-year degree.
Totally. If you have your undergrad, it's 8 years.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's straight up.
It's like your undergrad, and then go right in there. And I took accelerated like pre-med stuff, like your organic chemistries, your physics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just because I just wanted to get out, because I'm like, okay, I graduate as fast as I can, and then I'm gonna make $1 zillion. Well, it didn't work that way.
Right.
Like, it takes a long time to build your practice.
So was this from, like you said, like, was it, you didn't say, but I was reading up on you, was it like late 90s to early 2000s?
I graduated December 97, and I sold my practice in 06, and then I went to private practice where I just saw my celebrity clients and high net worth individuals. I went to their houses for 2 years, and then at that time, I watched a documentary about like 05, 06. I think that's when it came out. The Kid That Stays in the Picture, about Bob Evans.
Oh, The Kid Stays in the Picture.
We love it. Yeah,
I love that.
So I saw that documentary, and it really changed my life. I was like, because while I'm as a chiropractor, I was still stunt coordinating, huge music videos. I was doing like NSYNC music videos and Bon Jovi and stuff like that. So I was like,
based on your dad's name. Like, how did you just knew how to do it?
Well, I think I learned going in. Well, now I'm going to go back to it. So how I actually got into stunts was I was 18. I was skiing in Utah. My dad was doing a movie with, remember Hill Street Blues?
Yeah, of course.
I'm trying to think of the guy's name, the director.
That's okay.
Charles Halt?
Charles Haig.
Haig, sorry.
Yeah, so my dad was directing, or he was stunt coordinating and directing second unit on a Charles Haig movie of the week called In Line of Duty. And I went there to go ski, and I'm like, I'm gonna go have fun. I was like 18 years old, and he was doing the show, and then he goes, hey, you grew up in Ohio, you know how to cross country ski. Can you teach these actors how to cross country ski? I'm like, yeah, no problem. It was easy. So I showed Charles' brother how to ski, and I skied, and then they said, when it happened, when we were getting ready to shoot it, all of them checked out. They're like, no, we don't want to do it now. I'm like, well, I just spent like a couple days training how to ski. So the unit production manager was a friend of my dad's. He goes, let's just TJ do it. We'll get him a SAG card, and he could do it. It's real easy. He's going to ski around the house, make it look like we're FBI agents. I was 18 years old playing an FBI agent, you know? So
Standard job for an 18-year-old.
Totally. Working with
Did you have
weapons.
a flamethrower as well?
I wish.
Because that's what all FBI agents carry in the Alps.
I think I had a machine gun or something.
Okay. See, I wasn't too far off.
Yeah.
That sounds like Die Hard 2.
But it was a movie of the week.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, continue. Sorry.
Well, the funny thing is I'm scared to death. I don't want to disappoint anyone. And what happened is the snow was melting, so it was really icy. So it's not the proper way to like cross country ski. Where there's this little hill where they wanted to see me just go down the hill. So I'm on my little skate or my skis, and I make it like halfway down the hill, and I wipe out. And I'm like, oh, Dad, I'm sorry, man. I'm like, and they're sort of like giggling. So they make me do it again, and I wipe out even bigger. And I go, I'm so sorry. I go, these skis aren't good for being on ice. And they just thought it's funny. They're like, well, the second time we just did it because we thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I was like, my first job, I'm getting fired. They're like, you know, so.
No, just a couple more takes for our blooper reel.
You're like, In the Line of Duty is now a comedy.
It's a comedy. Yeah, it was funny. But that was my introduction. That's how I got my SAG card.
SAG card and your first
First stunt.
Yeah, your first stunt, which you fell. Did you know people in the business that would be like, hey, I'm going to hire you to do an in-sync video? Like, how do you get that job?
Well, how it really happened was my agent, Lynn Baldwin, put me in for a Mark Anthony Tina Arena music video for the Mask of Zorro to play like the kid that rides the horse and stuff like that.
Got it.
And they're like, it's between you and this other guy. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, that's awesome. I'm like, I'm not Spanish, I'm Italian, you know? And they're like, the agent called me and she goes, hey, you didn't get it. They didn't think you looked Spanish enough. I'm like, oh, that's okay. I'm Italian.
You're like,
so
I'm
it's
not
like,
Spanish, yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
you know? And so then the day the shoot happens, the producer calls me and goes, hey, I see that you're in Toluca Lake. And that's what was my P.O. box. He goes, can you come down to Universal right now? I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I went down to Universal with the director, Nigel Dick, who I've worked with over the years. And they're like, the model can't ride the horse. And I go, I thought that's what you interviewed, people that could ride horses. And they're like, yeah, he can't ride the horse at all. And this kid was like 5'6", good-looking guy from Miami.
He's the
Spanish.
face,
He's
you're the
totally
talent.
like stud, you know?
Yep. Face, talent.
So he, I got on the horse and the wrangler was there and she's like, well, let's see if this kid could actually ride the horse. So I get around the horse. I'm like, well, what do you want to see it do? So I'm riding the horse in Universal's back lot. And they're like, yeah, great, you're hired. So as I'm talking to the producer, his name's Dave Robertson, he goes, you're really good. He goes, do you do a lot of stunts? I'm like, yeah. And then he goes, well, I got this music video coming up. Do you want to stunt coordinate it? Because I have a bunch of young kids. And that's basically the introduction I did.
That's it. Good work produces more good work.
It is, exactly. And I've been with Dave Robertson ever since. He started my stunt coordinating career. And, you know, I've done a ton of videos with him and commercials I've been doing the last 5 years of shit.
How does, I don't know if there's a way to quantify this, how does having the chiropractic knowledge degree, that whole background, influence or affect your stunt work? Or do they not really go together?
Well, what's funny is I tried it through the medical profession that I've been working in for so long. Mm-hmm. I know what's going to elicit injuries. So, and biomechanics, so I'll change certain stunt scenes so it's less likely for an injury, especially with the actors, because when I was practicing, you know, most of the injuries that I was treating my actors were from them trying to do their own stunts. So I would tell them, like, why are you doing this? You're huge. I can't say people's names,
right,
but like,
course, yeah.
you know, you're a huge actor, you're a huge actress, like, and they're complaining about injuries that they did like 2, 3, 5 years before of something on a set. I'm like, get your stunt double to it. I go, me personally, if I was an actor, I would be in my trailer having my martinis and let my stunt person do it, because that's what they're trained for. You know, these stunt performers are athletes, so they train 20 years for that one day of job. You know, so
wow,
yeah.
So you're doing stunt coordinating as far as music videos. You're still doing your chiropractic practice. And then you watch the documentary. Oh. And it flipped, like a light switch goes off. You're like, I don't want to do this anymore?
Well, what happened is I was seeing that I was like, I spent more time fighting insurance companies to get paid for my patients, stuff like that. And I was fighting patients for like $36 or insurance companies for $36. I was like, I'm done with it. So I loved my patients. I loved treating them. I did some remarkable things with them. And what I liked about it is I facilitated them through the right way of medical care between the medical doctors, acupuncturists, massage, nutritionists. So I really helped them out through that, the life coaches. So when I saw it, it was just like a light went out. I remember I was in Encino in a small little theater, and I'm like, Bob Evans, man, and I never got to meet him. That's what it's so disappointing is, like, I really wanted to meet him and say, hey, you've changed my life. Bob Evans just like create something that I've never seen before, of just from script to screen. And I felt like he really passionately loved the storytelling. And I was like, man, I'd love to do that more and at a bigger level. Yeah. And I was like, man, how do I do it? So like I started optioning scripts, and then I started developing scripts and working with writers and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I want to do this full time. And I was actually married at the time, and my wife thought I was fucking nuts. Well, my ex-wife, she's like, you're going to sell your successful practice and you're going to stay in the film industry and the stunts. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to. So I just said, screw it, I'm going to do it. And then I started getting more stunt jobs. So then I just balanced stunt jobs with like developing scripts. I produced a couple projects, films and television, and just continue to do it. And
were you still seeing people on the side?
I did for 2 years as my home visits. I mean, I will still like, I get called by like studios when there's a problem. Like usually like the actor is not able to shoot or things like that. Like I got a sort of funny story. I worked on 8 Mile and I doubled Michael Shannon, and it was such an awesome experience to see Marshall Mathers write the album, because we didn't know what he was doing. Like between every shot that we would shoot with him, he would literally go out, he'd put his headset on, and then he'd be writing on his notebook. And it was like there's scribbles everywhere on the notebook, but until I saw the screening, I didn't see what he was actually doing. I'm there, and I was just supposed to work for like a week or two on the movie, and then go back and go back to chiropractic. And the late Brittany Murphy hurt her neck on set, and she comes in. They're like, well, TJ, the stunt guy, is a chiropractor. Maybe he could help you. And she's looking at me, screaming at me. She goes, chiropractor, I need a real doctor. She was screaming at me. And I go, I think I could help you. So I actually was able to treat her and got her through the day, through the shoot. But we became good friends. I treated her for years. And, every premiere she would invite me to. Matter of fact, I went to the premiere of 8 Mile, which was really fun.
That's amazing,
because it's like the beginning of our relationship as her chiropractor. I was able to sit next to her while she was watching this movie. And it was such a great movie.
Who do you go to when something's out?
I have a couple.
Okay, so you don't self-treat. You do.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. You don't use a chair.
Yeah.
Run into a wall and be like, oh, I'm better now.
One of my good friends I grew up with back in Ohio, I actually made him go to chiropractic school, Dr. Dan Russell, but he's in Northern California. But if he's in town, he treats me all the time. My cousin, Dr. Tom Duncan, he's in Charlotte. He actually just recently retired. He treats me. I'm actually going to get it adjusted by him Wednesday, because I'm going to be in North Carolina Wednesday. And then Dr. Greg, I always mess up his last name, but he's in Encino. He's in Studio City on Ventura Boulevard at the Health Spot. That's who treats me.
Got it.
Awesome. So you're on sets like 8 Mile. You're on sets growing up with your dad. And then I read a thing about you were on Darkman in 1990, like
wait, with Liam Neeson, Darkman,
following Sam Raimi around, like with like a VHS camera, and then ironically enough, everywhere you were putting your camera, Sam would do the next shot. Is that true?
That was a cool story. Where did you find that out?
I think it's.
This guy should have been an FBI.
I think it's on your IMDb page.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, I was like 16 years old, and I spent my summer on the set of Darkman. My dad was doubling Liam Neeson as Darkman. Yeah. On the movie, and he hung from the helicopter going down. Getting hung by the helicopter flying downtown LA and stuff like that. What's funny is his wife, she didn't even know what he was doing, and she saw the news of some guy hanging from a helicopter, and he gets home that night, and she's like, "There's this guy hanging from the helicopter." She goes, "Well, that was me." Yeah. So it's ridiculous. Like, she was really pissed off.
Yeah, I was like, "Well, there's a fight about to happen."
But yeah, I spent the summer with him. What was so interesting about Sam Raimi was he would dress really sharp, like wear a jacket and tie, and I thought that was interesting because I've been around so many directors, even at a young age of 16. So I was really like to watch it, and actually the DP Bill Pope was really interesting to watch him set up shots and lighting sequences and stuff like that. But when I was on set, they were doing stunt scenes, and I would bring my dad's Sony Handycam, and I would actually shoot the action scenes just because I thought it was cool. And
just for you to watch on playback because you thought it was cool.
Okay. I thought it was cool. And I was like, I put in different, and they would let me stand in certain spots and get a little close to the action. There's cars, jumping through a warehouse and, containers and shit. And that was before we had video playback. So Sam goes, hey, can I see that? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I'm showing him it, and then he goes, well, where were you in this shot? And I'm like, oh, I was up there in that, there was a little stairway, and I saw a light up there, so I wanted to go do that. And he's like, okay, cool. Then I see him put a camera there, so I thought it was pretty cool. I was like, okay, I'm 16 years old, and he put a camera where I was doing it. So
you're like, I'm directing Darkman.
What's interesting is, which I probably should have listened to him back then, is, he's one of those talented directors, but he would have lunch with us. Like, he would sit down with my dad and me and the stunt coordinator, Chris Doyle, and he would talk to me. I'm like thinking, like, how valuable that information of someone like Sam Raimi.
Were you self-aware of that though?
Yeah, I was shocked because I'm like, because I was scared of Liam Neeson. He was such a serious actor, and I would sit.
How tall is he, by the way? He's a pretty big guy, right?
6'3".
Yeah.
And because he's a really intimidating actor, I'm a big fan of his work too. But Sam would sit me down, and he told me, he goes, you got a really good eye. You should go to film school. And I'm like going, I need to be a doctor or a lawyer or something specific. And I should have listened to him to go into film school, because it would have saved me, hundreds of thousands of dollars of education and stress in school. But
I want to push back on that for one.
Yeah.
Do you think film school, you're on set doing it, isn't that the real film school versus just I sat in a classroom and learned about lenses and some lighting?
Absolutely. I mean, I got the best film school as a kid.
Yeah.
Being on set with my dad and watching directors.
I'm not slamming film school. I went to film school too.
No.
I
think
feel
it's
like
definitely
on set
needed.
is the real thing. Yeah.
I mean, film school is excellent, and I've actually speaked at, UCLA Film School and stuff like that, and some of the other film schools in New York and Institute and all those guys. Right. But I think those are great. I mean, it's a great intro, but my film school is actually being on set and listening to people. And it was easier when I was younger, because I'd ask them a zillion questions and you could get away with it. Like when I'm 20, 30, maybe 40, they're not going to give you that much leeway. But as a kid, they would sit down and tell me, like, this is what we did. This is why we're doing this. And I just took it to heart. And, working with so many amazing DPs, directors over the years, I do a lot of commercials. So on commercials, you'll work with some of the biggest DPs in the business, like Paul Cameron, who did Tony Scott's movies and stuff like that. And you just watch them and listen to them, and you're just getting all this information. You're like, why would you do that? And sometimes they're like, you being an asshole. I'm like, actually, I just want to learn. I may not agree with why you're doing it, but I want to know, because you have way more experience than me in this particular situation.
So would you consider your dad and Sam Raimi more of like your mentors, like those kind of people, and then besides Bob Evans, who you never met?
Yeah, I mean, obviously my dad's my mentor. Seeing the ups and downs of the business and seeing his success. He's finally like semi-retired, living in Texas.
Do you hire your father?
I do. Actually, you want to hear something funny?
Yeah. That's why we're here. We want to hear all the funny.
He works more for me than I've ever worked for him. So, I give him jobs constantly. He covers me on jobs. My company, T-Minus Productions, and I have another company, T-Minus Stunt Rigging. We, do wire work and flying and stuff like that. So if I'm not available, him or someone from my team will cover the jobs, because, there's only so many jobs I could do at the same time. I mean, there's very few that make a living at it regularly. I mean, and then you get an injury, you could be out for the rest of your career.
Right.
And it happens a lot. And that's what I saw in my practice. Like, this stunt business is the only, probably besides maybe football or something like that, but stunt business is the only career that it's 100% fact that you will get injured.
Right.
So there's no way you're not going to get injured doing stunts.
If you can't, is there a typical injury you see over and over and over, or is it just everything's different depending on the people you used to treat or still treat?
The injury is totally different because the stunts are getting more and more advanced. So it was sprain strains, and then it turns into ligament tears or tendon tears and stuff like that, like ACL replacements, knee reconstruction, hip replacements, like things like that are like the norm in an office. What's funny is, like, I had so many injuries and so many patients I had to send to, orthopedic surgeons, stuff like that. They're like, who's Dr. White? Like, why is he getting all these surgeries and stuff like that? And I'm like, I knew the extent of when we would send him to surgery versus what we could do through chiropractic and physical therapy and strength training and Pilates and yoga and stuff like that. Right. So there's definitely a fine line of when you actually go to surgery. But some of them, I mean, it would be nice if it was a clear fracture, but those aren't the injuries we normally get. It's the separation of joints, torn ligaments, things like that take forever to heal.
Well, I was very lucky. I tore my Achilles.
Yeah, that's right.
Now five years ago. And I was fortunate to go to a doctor, the head of foot and ankle at UCLA, and he recommended not having surgery. And he's like, listen, I can cut you open today if you want me to. He's like, but you're young, you're healthy, your body's going to heal. He's like, listen, if you're a professional athlete and you need to get back on the court, I get it. He's like, but do this, and trust me. And I did, and I feel great.
That's a terrible injury. Wrists, ankles, and shoulders are the worst to try to rehab.
Yeah, basically had me down almost like a ballerina for like 6 weeks, and he's like, your Achilles is going to reattach. He's like, your body's... I also was lucky my Achilles snapped, and it didn't go all the way up to my calf, where you would have to go in and surgically pull it back down and resuture it. I didn't have that. It just snapped, and it was like right there.
Yeah, so it just had to heal.
He just let it heal. It was just a longer process, like 4 months.
Then you had to stretch it, rehabilitation,
100%,
and ultrasound.
Yep.
So from injury to back to normal, what is that, a year?
Yeah.
18 months?
That's why I felt like 100% like run around again.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm not playing flag football anymore, but yeah. I learned my lesson. It just means you're getting old. Yeah. And you think you're an athlete. You're not an athlete. So being on set as a child, young adult, now you're doing stunt coordinating, you're doing music videos. Are you starting to get the bug, like, I think I can start directing some of these things? Yes,
that's like the next level, what's going on. And that's what's going on right now in my career is, some of the stunt coordinators that turned director Scotty Wall, who did Need for Speed, Chad Stanowski and David Leitch that did John Wick, and then David's doing some amazing stuff with like Deadpool and Hobbs and Shaw and stuff like that. So it's really opened the door where before we would go into meetings, they're like, yeah, you can't direct actors. And we're like, we talk to direct actors all the time. We know how to communicate with them and stuff like that. So now the meetings I've been going to, they're like, we want you to direct this. Who is your second unit director then? And like, it's different. So they want us on the first unit. And we're like, we have the team. My company does the same thing basically that 8711 does, where we're action designers. So we design the action. We look at the script. Now we're writing the script. But,
so this is all T-Minus Productions. It's kind of what you guys encompass.
Yes. Design the action, pre-viz, stunt viz. So we actually shoot it before we actually get to set. We design the action, if a fight scene or car scene or whatever, and then we actually just shoot it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So when you're going from, actually, I guess my question is, we're going to go back a little bit. Stunt coordinating stunt people and stunt coordinating actors, like you said earlier. Like, say you're on a set and you got Tom Cruise. He's doing all of his own stunts. How do you, direct them because they think they can do it all?
Yeah.
I mean, you're like, listen, I think you should probably have someone else do this.
That is the conversation with actors. They all think that they could do their own stunts.
Right.
And, even, Tom Cruise, he does a lot of his own stunts, but before he even does that, the stunt team dials everything in before he can even do it. And a lot of times on other movies, you're not able to do that. And, if Tom Cruise gets hurt, the movie's shut down. Same with actors. That's what I really tell the actors. Like, you get hurt, you get punched by another actor, another stunt person, they break your nose, we're shut down until you get reconstructive surgery. You know? So that's the bigger thing that we run across with actors. But, I personally like working with actors where I could train them for fight scenes and stuff like that. And so we could shoot them more face on and stuff like that, and just go in and do a master with the stunt people and really dial in the action, because, an actor that's, trained fighter is not to that level. So a stunt performer that's been training for 20 years. I mean, these stunt performers train 3-4 times a week, and, a couple hours a day.
Right.
Like you train jiu-jitsu. Like, these guys
I got a brace on my knee right now.
Yeah, these guys are maniacs. Like, they are athletes, and, you just can't compete with that. Like, that's me trying to do my own stunts. Like, yeah, I could have done it when I was 20, but, in my late 40s, I can't do it like what I used to do.
Of course.
And I don't want to hurt myself,
But you can direct the sequence, and you have the eye to see how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
What kind of things are you working on now?
Well, I just finished a music video for Tyler, the Creator.
Okay.
I just finished one for Fast and Furious 5. Oh, no,
9.
Fast and Furious 9. 9. There are 9 now. 9 for a video called Fast Lane. And then I'm waiting for the next job. Like, I just got called for a movie to do in January, and I'm developing a film right now. So I'm really focused on that.
Can you break down for the audience kind of what the Tyler, the Creator video from start to finish? Are you getting, like, they come to you, the producers, they come to you with, like, the concept and, like, hey, can you do this? Can you not do this?
Yeah.
Like, how's it kind of go?
Well, music videos have changed over the years. I mean, when I was doing the NSYNC videos, Katy Perry videos, stuff like that, like, we had a couple $1 million to do these videos. So now, a big budget is like $350,000. So they're not able to do the big action that we were doing, 10, 15 years ago, but you will still have one of those videos, like a Pink video or someone that at that level that they still are spending $1 million on it. Right. What I get is usually the director sends me the concept with the producers, and they have an idea, a rough idea of what it is. And then they say, is this possible, or is this CG, or what can we do? And then we talk about the budget, and we're like, hey, are we shooting this thing in 1 day or 2 days? Like, do we have 3 days shoot? So it's one of those things that you have to really like work out, because it's not like a feature film. Like, when I do a feature film, I have weeks to prep, weeks to train, dial in the wire gag or something like that. Music videos, I have like a day or two. So I'm like, listen, we're not in a $100 million movie.
So since we are an origin story podcast, so stunt performers and coordinators, you guys are in from the beginning, pre-production, pre-production on anything. Yes.
They once the project is financed and stuff like that, and the producers, they come and hire us, we read the script, we break down the budget, and we start working with the director and production team of how to actually shoot it and how to design the action scene.
It's funny because we had on the special effects horror movie guys, and sometimes they're telling us that they don't even get like the whole script. They just get like the part of that they're gonna do. Is it different in stunt coordinating?
Well, it depends on what type of project it is, because sometimes it is. We do get that like
they don't want to release the whole script.
Yeah, because they think
precious.
you're to steal it, or especially like the Marvel stuff and stuff like that. But I haven't done any Marvel work, but my friends have, and they definitely piecemeal the scenes, so you don't even know the story element sometimes, like why things are doing. And we like to get with the director and the writers and stuff like that, and like really make sure the action makes sense, because there's no sense of just making dynamic action that makes no fucking sense for the movie or the project. Right. So I'm not really into doing
it's like,
stuff
we need
that.
A big explosion here. It's like, why?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it'll look cool.
The guy's walking away from the grocery store. It's like... it's like...
but the way that milk felt.
Yeah, and the guy flying 30 feet through there, like...
Chips are not on sale. I'm blowing the whole place up. Can I ask, you hit this question all the time, but is there a favorite or least favorite stunt or type of work you like to do? And it could be either one.
I like car work. A couple months ago, I did a Kid Cudi music video, and it was really fucking cool. The director, Nabil, called me, and I did his last movie that just was released like last week called Gully. And he goes, I got this idea, and I want to crash some cars. So I go, well, let's break that down to see what we could do. So I went and started researching a bunch of car wrecks and stuff like that. And I gave him a couple ideas. I go, how many cars do you want to wreck? He goes, 3. It's got to be 2 cop cars and an ambulance. And Kid Cudi's in the back of the ambulance. I'm like, great. And so I thought of this idea. So I go, what if we flip the ambulance coming down the road? It's coming down our freeway, and we shot it in Long Beach. And we did a sidewinder, so we actually hit a parked car, flipped it over, landed outside, slid through the road. And then I go, what if we have the first cop car hit it and then bounce it and go end over the car? And I showed him like what that would look like with it's basically special effects makes an air cannon in it. And the other car would come back to the side of it and do a cannon, but roll through it and then hit the ambulance. He goes, I'm in. And then he fought for the money for it. I go, because it's a very expensive, it's a $100,000 shot.
Yeah.
And he fought for it, and he got me the money to do it. And I begged and pleaded. And it was hard because of COVID to get the special effects teams to be able to put the roll cages in the car. So it was like, we were supposed to do it this day, and then we had to wait a week because of COVID and stuff like that. But we were able to do it, and I love that stuff. I love that type of action.
And when you wreck those kind of cars, are they gutted? Do they have smaller gas tanks? Like, can you walk us through?
Yeah.
I know that's beyond probably that's anything I know, but
No.
how do you strip down a car, make it safe, deal with gas that can explode or electrical issues? Like, what would you do in your mind as you break down that shot to make it work from start to finish?
The cars are there a week or two before. They strip everything out of the inside of the car besides the steering wheel. They take the seats out. They take the radio, everything out of the dash.
And the purpose for that is what?
Safety. So you don't want anything to break loose and hit the driver when we're flipping it. So they take it all. And not only that, then they put the roll cage in. So we put a full NASCAR roll cage in there to protect the driver while we're doing it. And what's interesting is because we're doing air cannons in there.
And can you tell us what that is too?
The air cannon is actually an apparatus that they put so many pounds of pressure of air, and it shoves a metal beam that goes down to the ground and flips the car up.
Which they did on Dark Knight, right? The semi that flips up and over. Right,
that was a really big one.
Versus a pipe ramp, which is
the actual ramp at a certain angle, which we actually used on that Kid Cudi, that the car actually hits it to move it to flip over.
Because cars don't naturally really just flip like they do in movies, correct?
No.
That takes some
Remember
work.
Chips? I mean, it's like ridiculous. Like you see the accident happening. Like it comes out, there's like 6 cars on the freeway, and you see Podge and them go into. Like,
yes. So continue. You get the cars early. You strip them down.
They put the roll cage in. They pull the gas tank out. Sometimes they have to do some certain things to the engine to make sure that the car's running correctly. We actually put a braking system in the car, especially if they slide it, just sort of like drifters, like the e-brake, like a custom e-brake in there.
Right.
And then we put a fuel cell, just like in NASCAR, like a fuel cell to only allow like 3 to 5 gallons of fuel in the car at a time. In case
it does hit, there's no fuel to really burn.
Ignite it,
And then the drivers are, they're wearing a full fire suit, helmet. They have a Hans device to protect their neck. So it's been a lot safer than, I remember going to sets like in the 70s and 80s. These stunt guys were nuts because they were really changing the way we're making action scenes. So they would do a grab strap. So sometimes they didn't even put a cage in the car when they flipped the cars, and there was a strap on the seat. So they would actually they would drive to the pipe ramp. And then once it started flipping, they would hug the seat and hug themselves down.
Come on.
To the ground, yeah. And then they would flip over, and then they would just crawl out of the car. And sometimes they had a hard time crawling out of the car, like, because it was crushed. Like, there's no cage in it. So these guys, like, they're the real heroes of the stunt business of that stuff.
When your father comes on your sets, is he like, this is paradise compared to 1967?
Just our pads alone are paradise for what those guys used to make or use. It was ridiculous.
He's like, you guys wear helmets?
What's a seatbelt? So then can you just bullet points, like what's a rough walkthrough of right before the stunt is done on that day? You do like a run through, but without the actual stunt at 25% speed?
Yeah.
Like
we'll
to get camera and everybody online?
What we'll do is we'll go through, like for instance, I forget the DP on it, but he did Fury, and he was the DP on this thing, and he basically is like, TJ, like how close can I get the camera? And I'm like, let's do a couple of drive-throughs. Let's see what the momentum of the car is going to be, because I don't know how. I've never pipe ramped a brand. It was probably only a couple years old van, but ambulance, but they're the box ones.
Right.
So it's a very heavy truck. So I don't know what it's going to do once it gets up in the air. So I don't know how far it's going to slide and stuff like that. So we got the cameras as close as I could that I felt safe with it. But when we're setting up the stunt, we actually drive through a couple times, and 25%, 35%, and then I'll actually go with speeds. I'm like, okay, let's do 25, let's do 30, let's do 40, and I'll have them drive through it. And I usually feel like, is that too fast or is that too slow? And then we go and do it. And the driver usually tells me, like Jen Caputo was the driver of the van, amazing stunt woman. And we're going at the speed, and we started at like 25%, then we went up to 25 and 35 and 45, and she goes, I think 45 is just too fast. And then I think we settled at 35 or something like that, 30, 35, because when you're driving through it, you can't really tell, and then you just feel it. She goes, I think we're gonna go right through the car, right through the van. And even at 30, 35, whatever the speed was, she went right through the van. I mean, it was like a can opener. And because it's such a heavy vehicle. Yeah. And she flipped it over and landed amazing and did a great job.
What's a standard 3-ton? 4-ton?
That vehicle?
An ambulance, a standard ambulance?
I bet that is. Because I think it's like the Ford F-450 or something.
Yeah.
Do you only get one chance at that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, well, you have one ambulance. How many ambulances did they give you?
One. And one cop car. Or we had 2 cop cars, but they're the heroes, so we only had one time to do it. So that's the thing is with on a music video, something like that, it's not like you have a bunch of cars to wreck.
Yeah.
It's not like Fast and Furious where you have 6 of them in there.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
So you got it in one shot then?
We got it in one shot.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I think.
Thank God for the director and DP.
Yeah.
Right? I think, didn't Speed have like 9 buses or something like that to burn through?
I believe it. I mean, you have to, though, because when you're on set,
you got to take multiple
break
takes.
down. And, I've been lucky to have a great transportation department and special effects department that really take care of you. And everyone gets along, and, we're like.
Do you work with, is that kind of the community? Do you guys all work with the same people all the time?
No, but there's definitely a circle that everyone knows who they are, and the good guys and the bad people, and you're like, they're not going to do what you need to do on these jobs. And I recommend a lot of like special effects company and transport companies to work with, because I want the right cars. Like for instance, we did this thing on the same job. We had to get a GT3. So I knew the guy to get the GT3, and
Is that a Porsche?
It's a Porsche. I mean, it's a $180,000 car.
Right.
And they wanted to drift it, and I'm like, fuck. I got to get a great driver to drift this, and I can't. I'm gonna have one car, I have one day to shoot it. They're gonna give me one day to prep it. So I took it over to Willow Springs and shake it out with my stunt driver. I had to find an amazing stunt driver, Jay Lynch, and we tested out, and luckily we had the whole day to see what the car's going to do, because we basically are upsetting the car, because these cars don't want to do what they want to do on film. Like, they want to have it sideways and stuff like that. And these cars got such amazing computers on it. They are trying to keep it on the track. They're fighting the whole time. And, and Jay's like, oh, we're going to upset the Porsche for a little bit and then see what it does. And he, 45 minutes, 2 hours into it, all of a sudden he's sliding all around the track sideways, at 80, 90 miles an hour. So, and I'm sending it to the director, producer. I'm like, we got the car to do what you want to do it. But, when they have this idea, we don't know what it's going to do, because, then we get to the location, and the location was like rough, and it wasn't that smooth.
Right. It wasn't a track, Willow Springs. I don't know if this is a true story or not, but I heard in like 94, 95, whenever they shot that first Bad Boys movie, I think Michael Bay used his own car, his own Porsche. Is that true? Is that a rumor? I don't know.
I know he had the Ferrari. Okay. So they were going to give him the Ferrari. And did you see the outtakes on that?
No.
So my friend's dad doubled Will on both those movies and drove the Ferrari. And remember, the Ferrari had the cars flying off the car. Right. Not a scratch on the Ferrari. So if you look at the back, did you see it? You see in the outtakes, Will and who's the actor?
Martin Lawrence.
Martin Lawrence. Okay. Yeah. Will and Martin Lawrence are in the car, and they do a scene, and then Martin Lawrence just has to open the door. Well, when he opened the door, he hit a pole. So it dented the brand new Ferrari. And you see...
so the whole stunt was clean.
Wah, wah, wah,
the whole stunt, you got one scene like that. And Michael Bay, he's like, they've been stunt driving it all week, not a scratch on it. And you do that to open the door. But
well, we know each other loosely through our other business partner and in our company, Ryan Cheevers.
Yes.
He worked on... hey, Ryan, we're going to throw out a tie. Yeah, Ryan Cheevers. He's going to love this. He was working on Wolf of Wall Street. And so I don't know if he's told you the story about that.
Which one?
Well, they have to wreck the car.
White Lamborghini.
White Lamborghini, and it had to be white, which I think made it even more expensive, because there was like several options for red or black. Yeah. But the white one, which is what he really had in real life, Scorsese's like, no, I want that one. It was $1 million shot. They were setting up to do the rehearsal, and luckily they rolled on rehearsal, because the driver wrecked that car in the rehearsal. And they happen to be rolling, and I think that's what's in the movie.
Oh my gosh!
But check with Ryan on that when you get a chance, because
that's hilarious.
Yeah, just like that. $1 million shot. He told me it was just over $1 million.
Oh my gosh!
Also, I'm going to go back a little bit. Since you've been doing a lot of second unit directing, and now you're making the leap to full-on director, hopefully soon. what is a second unit director? Like, what does your job entail?
Well, usually it's just helping the director out, getting his shots of like the action. Usually it's stunts or nonverbal stuff, but some of the times, directors aren't able to do all the shots they want, so they actually give us more. So we're actually directing actors and stuff like that. So it's basically sometimes it's just clean up, helping the director.
Got it.
To direct.
I really want like the audience to like know.
Yeah.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Plus, you hear a second unit director and you're like, what?
What the hell is that?
But you're also a second set of eyes.
Yeah.
You probably spot like, hey, that could be dangerous. I know you got a million things to think about. So.
Absolutely. And that's what we do as stunt coordinators and second unit directors. Like we're really just trying to help them achieve their because as a second unit director, I mean, there are some guys that want to make their movie, and I'm like,
of course.
I'm not making your movie. Like I worked for Max on Palm Springs with the movie for Hulu, and I go, just tell me what you want. When I was directing second unit, I go, tell me, I'll help you achieve the scenes you want, because this is your movie, not my movie. So we just assist them and give them the shots, and sometimes they don't have enough time. We have a smaller crew, we can work a lot faster, and we have the team that we've worked with, like if we're working with like a car scene and the stunt drivers and the DPs and the camera cars and stuff like that, we do that all the time anyway, so it's just like we could knock it out for them.
I think it's going to serve you well. I'm excited for your first movie that you direct to
Me
come out
too.
because I want to. Because you're going to have all this background knowledge.
Well, speaking of that, what's coming up for you outside of serving other people's movies, stories, visions? What do you got coming up on the horizon now that COVID's kind of starting to lift and we're getting back to kind of regular life? What are you excited about? What's coming up?
I'm excited about. We have a TV project that we're pitching to studios right now. That we have an actor attached, and I have 2 movies that I'm attached to direct, but we're just going through the development page of the script. So we have a script, and then of course, you got to file it down and get it better. So I'm all about stories. So if the story's right,
money.
and you need money, you need the studio to back you, and then you need the actors.
Yeah.
So
You need somewhere to sell it.
Absolutely.
You need a lot of things to make a movie work.
It's an uphill battle, but I have some good teammates for these films that I'm attached to direct, and they're bigger budget, so and they believe in me, so it's pretty exciting to work with people that actually see your skill set and want to work with you. And lucky I have, from being a chiropractor and doing stunts, I have a lot of great relationships with actors. So once they see it's me, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, TJ, yeah.
Right. And since T-Minus Productions has been around for a while, are you more? Is it just like a referral based kind of thing? Like people just know you and they know you do good work, so that's how you get hired?
It's all referral.
Yeah.
I built a brand around me and T-Minus Productions and my team, and that's how I get hired. I don't have an agent, don't have a manager, don't have a publicist. It's just me and my wife, Lauren. And
who's amazing, by the way, man.
Yeah, Lauren, hey, baby. Yeah. So Lauren is my teammate, and she just, we, constantly we're in the room hustling, talking to people, developing scripts, and just trying to get the next level because someone told me, they're like, well, when are you going to give up in the film industry? I'm like, why would I give up? Like, they're like, well, you're not at that point. And this is like 5-10 years ago. And I'm like, I'll never give up. It's the process. And if I would have given up, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Right.
So it's like, I think you just have to be tenacious to do, what you're going to do, whatever it is. If you're an electrician, if you're a plumber, or whatever.
Are there jobs that you've turned down?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're dangerous, or because
there's a couple I probably should have turned down.
Oh yeah.
But there's artists I won't work with. I think they're too unprofessional and they're dangerous on set and they don't listen to you. Mm-hmm. And then there's there's one I probably should have turned down. Well, after I did it, it was an awesome experience. I did the Will Smith bungee jump over the Grand Canyon for his 50th birthday party, and after I did, I talked to my stunt guy friends, and they're like, I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, why? I go, I loved it. And they're like going, if you killed Will Smith, man, your career would be over. And I'm like, oh shit. I didn't really think of that. Like, because I'm such a safe guy and I've worked with that caliber performers before. So I don't really think of that. But, if I'd have fucked that up, I would have been done with this business. But, Will was great to work with. His family's great to work with. I've worked with his wife on music videos. I worked with his son on music videos and commercials. They're a great family. But, after thinking about that, I'm like, maybe I should have not done that job.
Did he live?
He lived. I mean,
so you did okay?
I did okay.
By the way, if he did pass away, you would have been a footnote.
I know.
Like, it would have been like
TJ White, that jackass.
Yeah. He lived, you did it. You can't have the reward without the risk, man.
Exactly.
That's just how it goes sometimes.
Exactly.
All right. Well, as we wrap this up, we kind of have been implying or implementing a question of all of our guests, which loosely sounds like this. If you hadn't gone into stunts, what would you be doing? Would you still be just doing chiropractic work? Or would you see yourself branching into another direction? It's theoretical, but I'm just curious, like what drives you? What fuels you outside of filmmaking? What are your interests? What do you think you'd be
I mean, your other chiropractic buddy already retired. I mean, you could be retired right now. I could be
retired.
In North Carolina.
Dummy me.
What are you doing?
You know what? I don't really have a lot of hobbies. I'm not like watching sports and stuff like that. I'm not really doing it. My hobby is work. So if I don't have work, I don't know what I'd do. Even when I was a chiropractor, I think if I wasn't in the film industry, I would just be a chiropractor owning multiple practices and managing them.
So more of a business-minded,
thing. But the problem is
still serving people,
because that's what the film industry is too. You're serving people, you're entertaining people, you're enjoying the experience. But I don't know what I would do. I mean, I probably will never retire. I know that. I can't sit at home. Like, what am I going to do? Golf all day?
Same.
Yeah, it's like
I don't do well if I have nothing going on.
I mean, I grew up in a small Amish town in Middlefield, Ohio. Like, I'm a country kid. Like, what the fuck? I'm living in LA. I have great friends. I do some really spectacular stuff. I get to work with amazing talent, and I'm enjoying it. So
that's amazing, dude.
All right, we got to work on something, I hope, someday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, before he came in, I'm like, there's got to be something we can do. I mean, can you make this set blow up and then we'll rebuild it?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you have me crash through that brick wall? Yeah.
By the way, if
your new intro.
Yeah, if Sam Raimi is watching this, you need to put him some credit for a second unit director.
Yeah, absolutely,
on Darkman 1990.
Oh, that's
redo
amazing.
it. Oh, maybe they need to redo Darkman.
With you as a director.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Let's get that going.
That'd be spectacular.
Can we be two guys in the background that die like henchmen?
Darkman's got tons of henchmen.
Yeah. You can punch me in the face. You can shoot me, drop me from the roof, whatever you need.
How about hang from the helicopter? We'll do that again.
Yeah. Done. Absolutely. As long as
I'm gonna ask Will Smith how the experience was first.
Yeah.
And then I'll get back to you.
And we'll get right back to you. Well, is there anything else you wanted? Can we plug anything for you? This is your moment. Tell us anything you want to wrap up with, or tell the audience.
If I'm going to plug anything, I'm going to plug our new tech company.
Please, go.
So, like I said.
So again, what else are you working on?
What else I'm working on? I'm launching a tech company. We're going to launch in 10 weeks. It's called Jocko.com, JOCKOH.com. And it's a platform for people to upload their content, whether they're a podcast or a life coach or a Pilates instructor, and they could sell their content on there. And it's like YouTube meets Mastermind. So we're launching it. I have some really exciting people that are going to be on it that I'm friends with, putting their content that, I think they're going to sell their content all over the world. And I'm really excited because it's stuff that, us being in LA, we have experience with these celebrity trainers or celebrity.
Right.
But now if you're living in Idaho or Ohio, you're going to be able to have that experience. So I'm excited to be able to give that to the world, or if you're in Germany. So
was this concept something that was created during COVID, during quarantine? Like, did it come out of being home all the time and like having to pivot?
Well, what the pivot was, I was praying. I'm like, something else has to come to me creatively, and I was not getting any creative juices besides like we were developing scripts at that time. And I'm like, what else are we gonna do? So I came out in the living room, and my wife was working out with this celebrity trainer, and he was on Instagram Live, and I said, I saw her working out with the guy, and I see him and his pregnant wife there, and I'm like, well, how's he get paid for that? She goes, well, you could donate money to him. And I'm like, well, he's got to support his wife. He's got to what's that doing? So I started looking at all these platforms that allowed trainers to put stuff online and have subscribers, and I didn't like any of them, and I thought they weren't pro the content producer. So I was like, man, there's got to be something else that could do it. So then I started looking at everything, even if they're like fans, what is it, OnlyFans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
are you going to launch an OnlyFans stunt thing?
No.
Like you're in a Speedo, but you crash through a wall while you're on fire, something like that?
$2.99.
There's got to be a market out there for that.
So I saw that, and I was like, they're doing that for the adult industry, but what about everyone else in the world?
Right.
So I started doing it, and then I saw these platforms, and then we started talking to the platforms. I'm like, well, what if we do customization? So I spent the last year customizing with a bunch of programs from all over the world to build this platform. And It's interesting because what we're trying to do is, and what we do is, like in the film industry, we have a talent manager. Well, on Jocko, we actually have a client manager. So I have client managers all over the United States, and they actually work with you and talk to you about your social media and how to drive traffic from your social media to your Jocko page or your Jocko channel. So we're doing a lot of that and just training people. That's what we're doing now, is like building people's brands.
Is it a channel or is it like a subscription based? Is it an app? Is it going to be on all those platforms?
It's on a website right now.
Okay.
We'll probably do an app later, but we're just going to fall out slow at first too. But it's going to be on a page, and each person has a page on it. And on your page, you could have subscriptions to whatever your content is. You could have your blogs on there, and you could actually sell specific products that we have relationships with dropship companies. So cool. It's basically your own business. We're basically trying to build your own business in one place, because a lot of them you have to use a bunch of different sites to actually tie them together.
Right. Very cool, man. I'm glad you're like us. You didn't sit around during quarantine.
No, you can't. I mean, I love this. This is what you guys did during quarantine.
This is it.
Great.
Yeah, this is what we did with our time. Hopefully,
we built it, and then Angelo's like, "Do you think people are going to show up?" And I'm like, "I have no idea.
I have no idea.
We'll find out."
There's 3 people who watch us. Me, my mom, and your mom. I think too, right? Yeah. And
well, I'll push it through social media too. So
thanks, we
buddy.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Now we'll be up to 4 people. This is great. This is great. TJ, thank you for coming on the show today.
Appreciate it.
We really appreciate the insight, conversation. For everyone who watches us on YouTube, we appreciate you as well. Also,
like and subscribe, please.
Please like and subscribe. That makes us very happy, and it allows us to keep doing what we're doing. If you're listening to us on Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, thank you also. I think that's it for today. You got anything you want to add there, Tony?
No, listen, we're getting really good people. TJ's one of the best guys around. So
thanks.
Hopefully we can work together on our project soon.
Absolutely.
Let's get things going.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, everybody. Well, that's it for this week, and we will see you next week. Have a good weekend.